tournament. So
all right, I
We're
just
big on those.
I just hit record. So
oh, you're recording.
All righty. Good morning, all. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Pottstown Sunday virtual service. I'm Mary Ryan, and I'm your lay leader today. Jerry Lazarro, wave Jerry, is going to be our speaker. And Jerry's been here many times, and well, in the actual building many times, but he has been with us many times, and we all enjoy his services very, very much. So I'm sure I saw today's topic, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And Rick, are you doing the recording? So thank you. If not, whoever's doing the recording, thank you. At the UUFP, we are a community that has been together virtually or in person for more than 50 years, providing liberal services to the Pottstown area. Our tradition draws from the wisdom of all the world's religions, the guide.
And let us see now if this will work. There we go. But you're not going to be able to see the screen, of course, unless I say share. There we go. Are we okay? Thumbs up. All right. Are we back, folks? Okay, I'd like to share a poem with you this morning by the late American poet Nancy Wood. Like so many of her works, this poem reflects the influence of the Native American culture of the American Southwest. Little heads up here, the seven sisters in Wood's poem refers, of course, to one of the star clusters nearest our Earth, the Pleiades. The kiva, referred to in the final line, is a Pueblo ceremonial structure, usually round and partially underground. Following this reading, we'll observe a silent meditation and then a brief musical meditation. And again, as with the chalice lighting, kind of invite you, take your time with this. Let the words guide you. It is our quiet time. We do not speak because the voices are within us. It is our quiet time. We do not walk because the earth is all within us. It is our quiet time. We do not dance because the music has lifted us to a place where the Spirit is. It is our quiet time. We rest with all of nature. We wake when the 7 sisters wake. We greet them in the sky over the opening of the kiva. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. We do not speak because the voices are within us. We do not walk because the earth is all within us. Those haunting lines from Nancy Wood's poem evoke the essence of a fundamental practice encouraged in every religious tradition, namely, be quiet, be still, disengage for a time from the chatter and clatter of everyday life, and listen. Listen long, listen deep. Then you may be able to hear that voice still and small, deep inside all. I know many of you were raised in the Judeo-Christian tradition, as I was, one of the many traditions upon which our Unitarian Universalist faith draws wisdom and inspiration. So you've at least heard of this still small voice, I'll bet. In the book of Kings in the Hebrew Bible, you read that the prophet Elijah, in hiding and fearing for his life, has this vision. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still, small voice. This still, small voice has been given many names: the voice of God, the divine essence, the divine presence, the Holy Spirit, the spirit of life, higher consciousness, the true self, intuition, the soul. Our American transcendentalist ancestor, Ralph Waldo Emerson, would call it the echo of the oversoul, that spark of divinity in all. But as one commentator notes, the important thing is not what it is called, but simply to experience it as your guidance. Guidance you can receive moment to moment that will inform you what to do, and you can trust it implicitly. When you are listening to the voice, you feel very calm and secure. It keeps you focused and living in the present moment instead of the future or past. This is where you find real security, because you realize that you have the knowledge and power to handle any situation life brings to you. In the teachings of Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Native American spiritualism, even of humanism, you find parallel instruction. Be still, be quiet, detach from the chatter and clatter of everyday life and listen. Then, perhaps only then, will you hear that still small voice within, a voice that speaks of truth that endures, that sings a blessed song of love eternal, as our opening hymn said, of a perfect love that casts out fear. Which brings us to the theme of our service this morning: quiet and peace. Now, I know that you'll indulge me a bit here. Those of you who've heard me speak before know that I've had a lifelong love affair with language, and I'm always intrigued by its history and processes. So I have to ask, did the phrase quiet and peace seem a bit odd to you? Were you thinking, shouldn't he have said peace and quiet? I mean, we've all heard the phrase peace and quiet. We've all used it, right? You parents and teachers out there, remember the first time you raised your plea above the din? Can't we have a little peace and quiet around here? Immediately, of course, you thought to yourself, oh God, I sound like my father. And a disturbing prospect loomed. Slowly, inexorably, you were morphing into your parents. Peace and quiet. In linguistics, that phrase refers to a binomial, or is referred to as a binomial, excuse me. Now, we're not in the realm of mathematics, so we're not referring to an equation with two unknowns. No, we're in the domain of language, where binomial refers to a familiar combination of two nouns joined by and, or nor. You know, like joys and sorrows, life and times, law and order, the long and short of it, the hustle and bustle, the pros and cons, heart and soul, heaven and earth, man or beast, neither fish nor fowl. Ever notice we never reverse the two nouns? In fact, phrases like peace and quiet are often referred to as non-reversible pairs. We never hear historians discuss the times and life of Henry VIII, or hear politicians proclaim, I'm the order and law candidate. We don't risk limb and life, and thankfully, arrive home sound and safe. John Philip Sousa didn't label his famous patriotic march tune, The Stripes and Stars Forever. And we don't discuss the cons and pros of gun control. It's never a night unfit for beast or man. And we never hear said of something odd that it was neither fowl nor fish. And you don't hear parents and teachers cry out in frustration, Let's have some peace and quiet around here. Why not? Does some underlying logic dictate the order in a non-reversible binomial? Nope. The consensus among linguists is that the order of nouns in a binomial phrase is simply a function of habit. We've heard it that way for as long as we can remember, so that order sounds right. The reverse order doesn't. Reversing the order would seem like putting the cart before the horse. Well, this morning, I'd like us to think about this. Putting peace before quiet is like putting the cart before the horse. It's more reasonable to think of quiet as the horse and peace as the cart dragging along behind it. Think about it. To experience peace, to feel peaceful, don't we need quiet within and without? That is, don't we need to tune out not only environmental noise, but also to somehow quiet the mind and body? To experience peace, of course, we need to shift our focus from the bustle and hustle, of daily activity. But can we be at peace when our minds are noisy, restless with fear, anxiety, uncertainty, conflict, angry words, distractions? I know that many of you, perhaps all or nearly all of you, practice some activity which seeks to quiet the body and mind. Now, you're in gallery view. How about meditation, anyone? Yeah. Mindfulness, Tai Chi, deep muscle relaxation. Now, that's one you may not have tried. Contemplation, visualization, silent prayer. Why do you do these things? Because you've realized the value of quieting the body and mind. You may think of it as a process of centering yourself, getting in touch with your center, with the core of your being. And you've determined that to reach that core, you need to find a stillness, an external and internal space where mind and body are at rest. When you've carved out that space, you feel more grounded, more connected, more fully alive. You feel healthier, mentally, physically healthier. But quiet threatens many people, doesn't it? How else can we account for the lengths they go to avoid it? All the noise they can't control, all the decibels that crash in waves around them doesn't seem enough. And as we well know, it isn't just the decibels of the sea of noise that breaks upon our ears. So often it's the content. I mean, how many of you were physically and mentally shaken when you heard what issued from the mouth of the President of the United States on January 6th and heard the chants of deluded worshipers, "Stop the steal, USA, USA, hang Mike Pence"? We knew that what we were hearing was another chapter and verse in the saga of racism and authoritarianism in our world. One previous chapter of this saga featured the trashing of Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. And in response to that incident, one commentator wrote, "The authoritarian idea of using law to punish political enemies and the racist idea that the rising non-white population threatens something essential about America have together been at the core of Trumpism almost since the get-go." So you'd think we would all long for, heartily welcome, a little quiet. But some people, nah. They can't sit still 5 minutes without tapping their cell phones. They can't walk around the block without earphones piping music into their heads. They can't relax on a beach for an hour without having a boombox blasting their idea of music to everyone on the beach. Don't let me get started on that one. I'm sorry. They can't spend an evening at home without having the TV on. They can't ever just sit still and be. They have to be doing something. More often than not, that something involves noise. To understand this phenomenon, we have to realize that with quiet comes risk. Quiet is risky. The accumulated wisdom of the humanist, scientific, and religious community tells us that when external noise decreases, internal noise may increase. Fears, anxieties, doubts, thoughts of things done, things left undone, what you shouldn't have said, what you should have said, slights and criticisms by other people, self-criticism, all these may increase in volume. That's why all practices such as mindfulness, meditation, contemplation, prayer, involve processes directed toward not just detaching from environmental noise, of finding a quiet place, but also quieting the mind, to silence habitual thought, at least temporarily. You know, the foundation of classical yoga philosophy and practice are the Yoga Sutras. The guru, Pantanal, is their acknowledged author. Writing in the 3rd century CE, the Christian era, or AD as we used to call it, Pantanal observed that our essential nature is usually overshadowed by the activity of the mind. Pantanal defined yoga as the settling of the mind into silence. Why is that settling so important? Because, he wrote, when the mind has settled, we are established in our essential nature, which is unbounded consciousness. Okay, let's say you've embraced the value of quiet, of stillness. You've actually achieved the goal of detaching from external noise and quieting the mind. What do you do in that quietness? What do you do with it? Do you lose yourself? Do you find yourself? That is, do you more deliberately, more intensely connect with yourself and listen? Listen for that voice that speaks from the very core of your being? Do you experience a connection with another greater reality, one that transcends the mundane and the everyday? Quietness, stillness facilitates both kinds of connection, don't they? Our Unitarian ancestor, Henry David Thoreau, who chronicled his 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days of living in the woods by Walden Pond, he certainly thought so. Not till we are lost, in other words, not till we have lost the world, Thoreau wrote, do we begin to find ourselves and realize where we are and the infinite extent of our relations. The infinite extent of our relations. Sounds like what Pantanal talked about as unbounded consciousness. Have you experienced what Thoreau wrote about? Have you experienced in some quiet place and space losing the world but finding yourself? Finding something in yourself, something deep and abiding about yourself? Did you sense, too, the infinite extent of our relations? Did you feel more connected to the awesome wonder and mystery of our boundless universe? Mother Teresa believed that we can't discover the divine presence in the midst of noise and restlessness. God is the friend of silence, she wrote. See how nature, trees, flowers, grass, grows in silence. See the stars, the moon, and the sun, how they move in silence. We need silence to be able to touch the soul. And, in quiet times, I think we can hear what words cannot ever tell. I love what man of letters George Steiner said on this subject. Language can only deal meaningfully with a special, restricted segment of reality. The rest, and it is presumably the much larger part, is silence. I wish, as I'm sure you do, that there were less agitation and more quiet reflection in our public discourse. I wish people were quieter, maybe listened more than they talked. More quiet in the soul might eventually lead to more peace on earth. The great Catholic philosopher and theologian Blaise Pascal wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." Well, for our noisy world, for the time being, what we can do is create quiet places and spaces in our daily lives. Take a break from the fever and fret of the day. Then we may return to the world with greater focus and clarity and not risk losing ourselves in it. We can serve with clearer purpose and firmer resolve the struggle for justice and peace. So the bottom line, I humbly suggest the phrase quiet and peace makes a lot more sense than the phrase peace and quiet. Quiet is a necessary condition for peace to flourish. It's the horse that must go before the cart if the cart is to ever move forward. So I wish all of us some quiet and peace today and tomorrow and each day thereafter. The peace that passes understanding that the Christian Bible refers to. The peace that only follows in the wake of quiet. So be it and amen, or should I say, so be quiet and give peace more than just a chance. And now I'll ask Mary to extinguish our chalice. And we do extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, not the warmth of compassion, or the fire of commitment. These we take with us into the world to share with all those whose lives we touch, whose lives touch ours. Now, I can't think of a more fitting song to close our service with this morning than hymn number 90, From All the Fret and Fever of the Day. It's really like a musical summary of this morning's service. And the choir of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Baltimore, Maryland, will lead us in singing. Please sing along while still muted. The lyrics will appear in the video. But don't run off when the song ends. Stick around for a time of community and conversation immediately following the service. And let's say a silent prayer that this will play. Oh boy. Rick, are we hearing it?
No, I'm sorry, Jerry. We're not.
Okay, let me pause and we will try again. Sorry, folks. I'm not sure why this didn't work. It worked in rehearsal, did not work right now. Let's see. Here we go. Now, Rick, can you see it?
It's up. You're muted.
Yeah. Are we all back together? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Alan. Hi. Miranda. Oh my gosh.
Stop the recording here, Jerry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Let me stop that. Okay.